Welcome back to the Bad Influence Podcast. I'm Jordan Banderas. Today, I wanted to dive into a topic that has been hard for my wife and I to deal with, and we have actually had to navigate through with this particular issue since we got married. I'm talking about the questions that never seem to go away. And those questions are: how come you don't have kids? And when are you going to have kids? Now, for a lot of couples, these particular questions are well intended. They don't have any malice behind them or anything like that. And people can just answer them and be like, oh, we're working on that. We're not prepared. All these answers that people can provide when they get asked those particular questions. Now, when it comes to my wife and I, anytime we get those answers, we get those questions, what happens is that it reminds us of something that we cannot change. Because you see, my wife and I are unable to have children of our own. It's a fact of life that we have come to accept because there's nothing that we can do about that. We cannot change it. Literally, there's nothing that we can do. But for some reason, society has a hard time fucking accepting it, which it literally pisses me off because the constant questioning, like for the last 8 years, we keep getting the same questions over and over and over again. And it's just like pouring salt on an open wound that won't close. Like, people are not letting it close. We have worked through it and everything. We don't get as mad as before or as offended as before, but still, this thing still is there because society sees a young couple and they're always expecting to see children. Well, with us, they don't see that. So they wonder what's going on. Like, there's something faulty with us, Now, here's the thing. Millions of people can have kids of their own around the world. But for those who suffer from infertility, the experience can be deeply emotional and challenging. It's one of those situations that you don't know exactly what to do because you don't know what causes it unless you go to the doctor. But another issue that I have seen growing up and seeing people actually deal with this type of issues is that it affects men and women. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, it doesn't matter if you're a man. Infertility can actually literally hit you like a wrecking ball or anything like that, and you won't even see it coming. You won't even expect it. And the thing is that you won't even know until you get the proper test done. So it's very challenging to accept that because the problem with dealing with this particular issue is that as a society, we expect that once a couple is married, they will have children, no matter what. We always expect to see children with a young couple, like I mentioned. And I don't know if it's because of the LDS religion here in Salt Lake City or in Utah in general, but people start asking when you will have kids as soon as you get married. I have seen it, and it's like, well, they just turned 20. You want them to have kids right away? And some people do, and that's their choice. But when you're dealing with infertility, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to explain to you what's going on with me or with my body because it's none of your fucking business. But here's the other thing, is that when you keep getting those questions over and over and over again, it hurts you emotionally and mentally because as a man, if you're dealing with infertility, it makes you feel less of a man. Like if you're not able to fill a traditional role of being able to make a child, And as a woman, it also hurts you and it makes you feel worthless because there's this expectation that as a woman you should be able to have kids. So when you're not able to have kids for whatever reason, it could be due to infertility or anything like that, then you kind of get looked down upon. I have seen it. You're like, oh, what's wrong with you? People will be saying shit like that, and they will questioning you, and you don't even know what's causing it. You don't even know if there's anything that can be done. So it makes you feel bad. And one thing that I found while doing the research for this particular episode is that this issue of infertility, it actually affects 1 in 8 couples across the world. This is around the world. Now, 1 in 8 couples, I'm pretty sure you can, or you know, more than 8 couples at this point, from work, your friends, whatever. So you may know somebody that's actually dealing with this particular issue, but they never talk about it. Like, probably you already know somebody that is been married for a while and they don't have kids. And probably you have wondered why are they waiting for, because maybe you have your own kids and you want your kids to have friends with your friends, like, so you guys can gather around and have like parties and everything. But what if they don't have kids because of this particular issue? That's kind of like what happens with my wife and I. So maybe you already know somebody that's dealing with this, but they don't want to talk about it. So you have to be very careful on how you approach it, because maybe you're offending them on the low key. Now, because of everything that I have dealt with with this situation, I feel that we shouldn't expect everyone to have kids just because they got married. Because that fucking expectation can hurt the people that suffer from this issue of infertility. It can make them feel like I mentioned, worthless, that they're not a good person or something. People come up with the most random shit. So you never know what people will say or how people will react when somebody opens up about infertility. So it's very hard to deal with. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. It's very hard to deal with. And I want to share this story because this highlights the issue that men and women can suffer from this particular issue, but we don't actually accept it. And what happened in this story is that a while back, I will say more than 15 years, a long time ago, I used to know this couple that had been married for a long time, and they had been trying to have kids for that long time. I think it was for over 6 years. So they had been married, let's say, for 6 years. They tried to have kids the whole 6 years, and they couldn't do it. She was never able to get pregnant. So the husband was blaming it on her. He's like, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. You cannot give me a child. What's wrong with you? And I saw shit like this. I saw how they would get on fights literally in front of people because of this. Because he was actually so mad about it. Like it was her fault. And maybe it was. But he never wanted to go to the doctor with her. So, and because of that as well, because he didn't want to go to the doctor, she was like, I'm not going to go to the doctor if you don't go with me. So they were always fighting about that. And one of the things that happened is that he became abusive with her because of this, because he was blaming it on her. And he also cheated on her. And one of the times that he cheated on her, he got the other person pregnant. Now, when he found out about the new baby, he was excited. He was like, yeah, I'm finally going to be a dad. Somebody's going to give me a child. And decided to leave his wife for the other woman. And one of the things that happened in this story, and that's why I want to highlight this because it's the most fucked up thing that I have ever seen. He actually said to his ex-wife at this moment that he would leave her for the other woman because she wasn't worth his time since she wasn't able to get pregnant. So he leaves. He has the kid with a new woman. and the ex-wife moves on. It took her a few years to move on because of all the emotional damage, especially because she thought she was the one having the problem of infertility. And then she met somebody else. She met another guy. They started dating, they started, living together, and all of a sudden, she got pregnant. So she got pregnant with the new boyfriend, now husband as well. They got married recently. So they got married, they have a kid, and they actually have two now. They have two kids now, and she's happy. Now, what I want to highlight about this particular story is that if you guys are dealing with infertility, if you and your wife, you and your girlfriend are trying to have kids and are dealing with infertility and you guys are not able to get pregnant, the best thing that you can do is literally go to the doctor, get the test done, get everything that needs to be done, literally tested, so you can see whose problem it is. Because you guys may be blaming each other, but in the end, maybe it's both, maybe it's one, and whoever has the infertility problem is not something to be ashamed about or anything like that. It's just that once you figure out who or what's causing the problem, you guys need to work together and figure out if you guys need to adopt or something like that, or if there's a treatment like IVF. The only problem with IVF is that it's fucking expensive. I've seen people spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and unfortunately the whole fucking treatment didn't work. When I heard that from one of my friends, I was like, that's a lot of money, but hey, you have to do what you have to do if you want to have a kid of your own. In my wife's and I case, we actually want to adopt at one point, if that's possible. And again, that shit is expensive. That's one of the things that I like to complain about, because it's expensive. They're like, oh, why don't you adopt? It's like, yeah, it's like 30, 40 grand. Like, what the fuck, But with that said, I also want to share this other thing that happened, this experience that happened to me recently, because at work, someone asked me, hey, Jordan, when are you and your wife going to have kids? Now, at this point, I'm tired of always having to answer that question with the medical explanation, like, oh, we can't have kids because of this issue, or whatever. So I'm like, I'm fucking tired of it. So my answer was simple. I thought it was gonna be simple at least. And I answer, well, me and my wife don't want to have kids. Right now is not the right moment. And I was taken aback by the person's reaction, because when I said that, she kept shaking her head. She was like, no, that's not good for you, whatever. So I was taken aback, and I asked her, like, what's wrong with my decision not to have kids? And I should have just left it at that, because her answer triggered me. Her answer was that having kids should be my dream because kids are lovely. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, that's until they start talking back to you. Then they're not lovely. And she also said that I will never be happy without having kids. That's what she said. And that's why it triggered me. And I was like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with my decision or my wife's decision not to have kids. Because what if we're not financially stable? What if we're not financially ready to actually have a kid? What if we're not prepared to have a kid? What if we are not emotionally stable to have a kid? Like, I gave her so many questions, like she didn't know what to do, so she just left it. And she's like, whatever, it's your life. So, and she literally just walked away after that, because I was, like I said, mad. It's like, what is your deal with me if I don't have kids? Like, that doesn't make me less of a man. That doesn't make my wife less of a woman, because we're happy married. We're a happy couple. We have been married for 8 years, and we're doing great. Now, because of this particular experience, I was like, well, now I want to know why people choose not to have kids. That's why I'm also doing this podcast. But after talking to some of my friends, I found multiple reasons why people choose not to have kids. Also, I found a study that was done last year to find out why people are not having kids. And some of the reasons are very important to highlight. Some of those reasons are financial stability. It's kind of like why I asked this other lady, because that's very important to have a financial stability or to be financially stable when you're planning to have a kid, because having a kid is very expensive. Like right now, everything is going up in price. You have to buy clothes every few weeks or every few months when you're having a kid, because sometimes they grow so fucking fast. You have to buy diapers, which are fucking expensive. You have to buy food, which is also fucking expensive. Like there's so many things that go when having a kid that are so expensive. You need a crib, you need a bed, you need a babysitter, you need all these things, and all of that is fucking expensive. So people are actually looking into the economy and saying like, you know what, I'm going to wait, or you know what, I really don't want to have kids right now because it's expensive. Other reasons are work-life balance, which to me that's actually also important to highlight, because when you have a kid and you have a good work-life balance where, like, for example, you're able to work your 8 to 5, then to go home and enjoy your life. You go out with your friends, you go out on dates, you go do all of this, travel, whatever you do after work when you're single, right? If you have a kid, you may not be able to do anything after work but take care of your kid. So your work-life balance goes out the window. You may not know what to do. You may not know what to expect when you come home. You have to change diapers now. If the baby gets sick, you have to take care of it. You have to be very patient with the kid. So there's a lot of things that go on your mind when you're not able to actually keep your work-life balance the way that it was before you have a kid. Now, all of this I actually know from friends. That's why I'm talking about this. And the last thing that I found in this particular research is that people have a desire to maintain their independence, which I think is the most important reason to highlight, because there are people now saying like, you know what, I like my life the way that it is right now. So I don't want to have a kid that I may not be able to take care of. I barely can take care of myself, or you know what, I like just being independent, not having to think about somebody else that is gonna worry for me. I can make my own decisions without having any repercussions for anybody else but me. So people like to keep that, and we should respect those decisions, though. We should respect that as well, because another thing that I found, and it's also very important to highlight, especially nowadays, is that men, a lot of men right now, are actually looking to get vasectomies. I was looking at this report from medicine.yale.edu that shows that ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned, more men are actually calling clinics and making appointments to know more about this particular procedure. On the report, it says that there has been a staggering increase of men looking to get this procedure, that one clinic reported an 850% increase in regards to visits for this procedure, which that tells you that some people don't want to have kids, and that's their choice, and we should respect that. We shouldn't be judging people because they don't want to have kids. We shouldn't be judging them because maybe they can't have kids. And one thing that happens a lot, and I have seen this with me and my wife, is that when we're walking, let's say at the mall, or we're going to a park, we go have a walk or anything like that. People that have kids look at us like, "What are you doing here? You don't have a kid. Why should you be here?" I That's at least how that at least that's how I feel when people look at me like that, because they give you that specific look that says like, "Why are you doing here? You don't have kids. Why don't you have kids?" See, that I have seen that. And here's one thing that I want to point out: it's not our job, and it's not our, I don't know how to say it, but it's not for us to judge somebody that doesn't have kids due to infertility or for whatever health reason, or and it's not our job to either judge them or question them about it. Because when we question people like that, or when we judge them, we may be opening a Pandora's box of pain, because we don't know what that person is going through. We don't know what they have gone through in the past. We don't know what make them have that decision, or what's going on for them, for their body to not be able to, have kids or be able to create a child. So we should just leave that judgment and everything behind, and we should try to be more understanding to people that, hey, they have a choice to not have a kid, or to not be able to have a kid. Unfortunately, that might not be a choice, but if they decide to just leave it at that, where they're like, you know what, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna live my life, then let it be. And that's what I wanted to share on today's episode. This is a very personal issue that my wife and I are dealing with. And I know that a lot of people are actually dealing with. Like I said, 1 in 8 couples are actually dealing with this particular issue. That's why I also wanted to talk about that, because the issue is more common than you think. More people have infertility and you may not know it. So if you're dealing with infertility, obviously rely on your partner if that's one option. Rely on your friends, family, get a support system. Also, if you do want to have children, you can look for the proper treatment that may work for you, because unfortunately they're never a guarantee. And if you decided to not have children, then that's your decision, and you do you. So like I said, that's what I wanted to share on today's episode. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the growth. Thank you for everything. You guys are amazing. The supporters are amazing. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I'll leave you with my final thoughts. Not having a child makes you less than a woman or than a man, because you're gonna deal with so much shit throughout your life that's actually gonna help you mature and become a better person. And because you made that decision, all you have to do is take care of yourself. And have a great day.